Good Monday morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with a daily technical update. It is, Monday, the 10th of March. And in this educational video, there is no recommendation or advice whatsoever intended. It is for educational purposes only. And we'll start with S&P 500 today. That has bounced off a support Friday at 5,670. And we could see a further bounce today. However, here pre-market, just very early morning, you can see that the future or the CFD is down slightly after its close, but that is also compared to a higher close Friday. So the actual cash market is bouncing or bounced Friday. You can see it closed up here. So as long as it holds itself above 5,670, then we could see a bounce here the next few days, possibly up to below the gap area here, 5,859. We can also see here on the weekly chart very key support we have. We can remove this one because it's, we can close just around the low of this bullish engulfing there, dip down to that level there. So expect a bounce, but we are in a bearish trend short and medium term. Nasdaq also bounced, it dipped below 19,880, didn't get all the way down to 19,622. We could also see a bounce here to begin the week, but let's see how long it will last. You can see here on the weekly that it actually tested the lower rising trend line here, but we are in a bearish trend. The uptrend has been reversed. The Dow Jones index closed still above this 42,518, so hasn't closed at any time below this support area here, this gap support, which is quite interesting and a key thing. And I think here we could see maybe a little bit of a bounce the next few days, but we are in a bearish trend, and here we'll see just pre-market dipping a little bit lower. On the European market and EuroStoxx50, here around opening times, it's opening a little bit lower, set to open about 1% lower, but let's see if it actually does that. We have we're still in the bullish trend, but I would say sideways trading, and you can see here also we are trading around here on the weekly. We see 5,500. Looks a little bit stressed, and there is some divergence on the RSI. You can see the values here, they are lower than over here, and we never got back below 40 threats, also still in a positive sentiment. If we're looking at the DAX future, that is currently indicated to open a little bit lower. We can also see there was a little bit of sell-off Friday. Looks a little bit toppish short term here on the daily chart. RSI declining, market moved higher. But look at the weekly, we can see that the weekly chart actually made a new all-time higher close. No divergence on the RSI, indicating we could see DAX in a higher level in the coming weeks. On the FX market, and euro dollar had a very strong move or bullish move last week, weakening the dollar. There's still potential up to 109.35 area where we have some resistance, as we can see. But what is actually quite key and interesting to look at is that it actually here on the weekly got back up to this rising trend line that it broke out of November last year. And they got up there and testing it, also testing the 200 moving average, and weekly RSI got rejected at 60 threshold. So maybe we won't get all the way up there, but if we do, and closing up there, well, then there could be potential higher. But we are very close to an inflection point, or there are some strong resistance areas in just below 109, so that would be key to watch here the next few days. I could see that we get a little bit of a setback. Same picture more or less on sterling dollar. Didn't get it all the way up to 103.50 resistance area. Could set back a little bit, test this 128 support area here, where we also can see we have the 200 moving average coming up here, or moving sideways, giving a little bit of support. It was also a little bit of resistance last week, so maybe we can have bounce off and then a next upwards move. The Euro Sterling, also a strong move ahead, back above the 200 moving average. Let's see if it can stay above. Well, the positive sentiment on the RSI is indicating just that. But on the weekly, you can see it's still in a bearish trend, lower lows, lower highs. We need to get back above 84.75 to actually trying to establish a bullish trend, and preferably also above this falling trend line. But then we have all the declining moving averages also pointing lower. But maybe this is a start to some reversals. Dollar yen. It's once again, it did Friday, and it also did this morning, testing 147.20 support. But here you can see on the weekly, it actually did close below, well below the 148.65 key strong support. And let's just move that up there so we can see. So we are below the 100 moving average, which is actually rising. So maybe we could see a little bit of a bounce here back to test it at least the next few days. But we are in a negative sentiment and in a bearish trend. However, on the weekly, the RSI is still above 40 threshold, so still in a positive sentiment. But we are in a bearish trend overall. So that is something to keep an eye on, and keep in mind that we are in a bearish trend on dollar yen. Euro yen got rejected. Let's zoom in a bit here so we can see what's going on. 161.20 got rejected there, just below the 100 moving average, still below the cloud. And we have a bearish engulfing likely pattern building up here this morning. If it also materializes, I think we could see the RSI to also being rejected. It is as we speak. Let me just add this one here. Let's see here what we can see. See RSI got rejected there at 60 threshold. First is minor support at 38.2 at 158.80, but we could see a sell-off down to, oops, that was not that. I should grab this one. Around 157.30 at the 61.8 retracement. I think we could see a dip down to that level. If it takes out previous high, then bullish trend has been restored. Aussie yen couldn't get all the way up to the 61.8 retracement before being hit by selling again, and we could see a test of the previous low here at 91.85, and possibly or likely actually break below. There's no divergence on the negative sentiment on the RSI, indicating lower levels. Also sterling yen a little bit frustrating actually. Seems to be forming maybe this ascending triangle-like pattern. Could be just a corrective pattern before it breaks bearish again. If it takes out the lower rising trend line here, well, then expect a push down to around 185, 183.70. If it takes out 193.20, bullish trend is likely to be established. Aussie dollar, well, still in this range here, just below 64 and down to 61.80, 85 in this region. Got rejected at the 786 retracement, just below the 100 moving average. If it takes out the 61.85, expect the downtrend to resume. If it takes out the peak up there at 63.65, then we could see a push up to above 64, possibly up to 65, 65 and a half. The dollar Canada has bounced off the 786 retracement, and I think we will see a resuming uptrend. Bullish on the RSI, positive sentiment on the RSI. If RSI gets back above 60 threshold, expect higher dollar Canada levels above 145.80 above this level, and push up to maybe 146 and a half, 147. Sterling Canada, very volatile, extremely dangerous to trade. Pushed higher Friday, trying to push higher today. There is potential higher, but you can see it's a little bit stressed, a little bit long in its tooth here on the strength indicator, indicating we could see a correction. And if it takes out a 183.75, then we could maybe see a correction down to around 182. Euro Swiss, let's move on to that. If I can hit the correct button there. That got almost up to 96.50, got hit by selling or profit taking. Below the 95.15 support, I think we could see a correction down to the 200 moving average and the 61.8 retracement here at 94.50 area. Could actually be quite swift, and then I think we'll see a bounce once again. Positive sentiment on the RSI indicating we could turn around after a correction. The dollar Swiss testing 87.82 minor support. I think we could see a dip down to 87.33, where there's also some support. We have negative sentiment on the RSI and likely to push lower. And you can actually see if we have some interesting levels here currently. We can see that's back here in November, where it pushed up a little bit. There seems to be some pivot points there for bullish bearish. So in this region here, I think we could see maybe a short-term exhaustion and then a correction. And also on the dollar index that if it will update, at the moment seems my connection a little bit slow. I don't know what's going on. There we are. Below the 104.10.11, very close to the support here at 103.28. I think it could be tested. Negative sentiment on the RSI, but it could also be a short-term exhausted move before a bit of a correction up to around 104.50, maybe up to 105, and the 200 moving average. Gold, well, stepping sideways the past, the end of the week, most of last week, sideways trading between 28.90 and 29.30. I want to see a breakout of either to the upside or to the downside. To the upside, then I think we'll see a push higher, possibly to 3,000. To the downside here, then I think we'll see these supports here at 28.53, maybe even 28.30 to be tested. And if it takes out 28.30, well, then we have a larger correction. So keep an eye on these two levels there. Silver currently testing the 786 retracement at 32.70. Spiked a little bit above here. We are in a positive sentiment with positive sentiment on the RSI, indicating likely higher levels, but it is struggling at the moment. It could set back a little bit, maybe below 32. But if it takes out the peak there at 32.75 from the other day last week, then I expect a push higher towards 34. Copper, extremely volatile. Also, correction phase. I think we could see it down to 463 and a quarter before I think we will have a bounce. However, there is a little bit divergence building up here on the RSI. But if RSI moves back above the falling trend line here, let's adjust it. There we are. Then it could push higher. And medium term, I still think that we could see higher levels on copper. There's no divergence on the RSI, as we can see here, and the peaks back here, back in May last year, could eventually be tested, but it will not be without a struggle. On the energy side, well, we have a strong bounce to the end of the week, last week, after dipping almost down to 65 on the WTI crude oil here. And I think maybe we could see a little bit of bounce higher, but there's some resistance here at 68.42. And we can see here on the weekly we are in a bearish trend, and then could push lower below 64 and down to around 62 area. So quite bearish, but expect a little bit of short-term correction. Here we have it on the Brent crude oil. Actually formed a bottom and reversal-like pattern, and I think we will see it push up to 72, maybe even all the way up to 73, 74 level. Dutch gas has bounced after dipping below the support at 38 and 36.77, and we could maybe see a bit of a correction higher. And let's just see where we could move to if we just take the last leg down here. Well, maybe up to around 43 euros, since this is the euro gas. But we are in a downtrend, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. Medium term, Well, undecided, but we had this top and reversal pattern there, but it's bouncing from the 55 and the 100 moving average, and still above the cloud. So I think we could see a bounce here the next few days. And finally, on the energy side, we're talking Henry Hub gas that spiked almost this early morning to the $5.490 to be exact. But we also had a resistance up here at the 490 coming all the way back here from 2022. So it would be a tough nut to crack at this 490 level there, but it is not unlikely that it could happen. But for now, it seems to be setting back a little bit. If it takes out 410, then expect a push down to around 375. US 10-year Treasury yields still in a bouncing mode, but in a downtrend. Can't really get away from this 38.2 retracement at 431. Did spike a little bit above, but there should be room up to test the 440 strong resistance. If it can get back above that, well, then we're looking at 450, 445. But we are in a downtrend short term, and if it takes out 410 here, well, then we are looking at 4%. The 2-year, also in bouncing mode, should be able to get back above 4% at 4.05, maybe up to 4.15, 4.17 in a very strong bounce. However, we can see all the moving averages declining. The 55, give it a couple of days, then we'll also push below the 100. No, sorry, the 200 moving average, and that could tell you something about that. The underlying trend is bearish. Looking at the European yields, and we have the Euro 10-year yield here this morning, dropping a little bit lower, but we're still in a bullish trend, and it really needs to close this gap area here. We have some strong support here at 265. I actually just a little bit 265 key strong support in this gap area here down to down to 280. And I don't think it will be closed anytime soon. But you can see here, we can see actually it's moving at the moment, dipping a little bit lower here. So maybe some profit taking coming in from traders or investors. The UK 10-year, well, after this spike up here and then just massive drop, support here at 458, and the 55 moving average could be tested. If it starts pushing below that, well, then we could be looking at 450 again, maybe even 445. And then finally, cryptos and the Bitcoin, bearish trend. Lower low, lower high, and now again lower low here. Closed. It's hard to say what its closing prices is in Bitcoin actually, because it's trading 24/7. So I would be a little bit cautious with that. But we are back below the or very close to the 80,000. Actually spot on here. Could bounce a little bit. If it takes out 80,000, then we'll look at 77,700, maybe even down to the 74,000 level. Ethereum currently testing 2,000 level, and we have to go really far back to find levels like that. We have to go back all the way to 2023 actually to see levels like that. So also quite bearish on the Ethereum, but the 2,000 still holding on. We can see 1, 2, and 3 times this morning that it seems to be bouncing off it. So let's see if it can actually get back above 2,300 and maybe start getting a counter trend there. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day and talk to you later.